So today we're gonna be welding the treehouse brackets. In order to make a good weld, you gotta clean all the surface rust off, and that way you have electricity flow from one surface to the other surface, which we're gonna put on here. I just welded up this to practice before I showed you all how to weld a little bit better, because it's very important to get the correct heat on them controls. Whether you use AC or DC, plus or minus, and the amperage, and it's hard to tell. Sometimes you got to play with it to get about the right heat. But I got my holes all pre-drilled in the drill press the other day, and so now I can weld on this without having to worry about the drill press being in the way. And so we're just gonna clean it up with this thing. This is nice. This is a Wagner paint eater, but it works a lot better than a grinder. It don't put grooves in the metal so much. So now what we're gonna do is we put the metal on here. We're gonna put a square on it. They make magnetic squares, but we're gonna just use this to make sure we have this where we need to be. And that looks perfect. So now what we're gonna do is what we call a tack weld, and we're gonna weld it in 4 different places, because when you get it hot, it wants to move around on you because the metal expands so fast, because one piece of the metal's room temperature, another piece of the metal's really hot, and so it kind of moves back and forth a little bit. So in order for this to stay where we want it and to keep it flat on the surface, we're going to just tack weld all 4 corners. Now that I got that done, I can just do a nice line. Now I left a gap here in the middle. I'll fill that in a little bit later, but that way you don't get too hot in one spot. It's nice to do smaller welds in little increments. Whether or not you can see it or not, I'm making little circles and pushing. And now my rod's spent, so now it's time to get a new rod. Always keep them in a metal bucket, non-flammable, because they stay hot for a while. Weld the back end on this. Now what we do is we come and we check them with a slag hammer, and all this does is you just chip away at the slag. Yow! And that's what happens when it flies in your hair. Not the prettiest weld. I don't claim to be a professional welder, but this is how I taught myself. Alright, so now it's a little on the patchy side, so now we got her cleaned up. We could take a wire brush and go over it, clean it up a little better. and then go back over. Okay, so we'll do one more pass and try and make that more uniform. So you can't hardly see it. However, if you see how it looks like little circles, that's what it's supposed to look like. But basically it's supposed to look like a bunch of little dimes stacked on top of each other. Then you know you got a perfect weld, because that means you're pushing it into the metal better. But this should hold pretty well. So there we have it, one treehouse bracket. This piece down here, this isn't needed. That's just extra support. And then this piece here, the big bolt that we got in the tree goes in through here, so that gives it wiggle room to go back and forth, up and down a little bit in case the tree's twisting. And it's a 1-inch bolt, 1.25 inches, and there's 2 inches on this side, 2 inches on this side for it to go, and 1.5 inches to go up and down. And then we're gonna have 2 beams, 2x12s going inside here. So we got these 3 holes here to kind of lag into the side of it, and then we have these 4 lag holes here and these 4 lag holes here that come up through the bottom of it. So the beam sits right on top of this here. So we'll see that when it gets all up in the tree there for you.